ChatGPT referral traffic to websites plunges 52%, changing the entire nature of search. Are companies doing the dumbest thing ever with their AI and entry-level workers? Europe's push for digital sovereignty may reopen the tariff war with the US, and when big tech runs government, who's really in control? Welcome to #Trending. I'm your host, Jim Love. Let's get into it. ChatGPT referrals to websites have fallen off a cliff, down nearly 52% in just 1 month. That's based on an analysis of more than 1 billion citations by Profound's Josh Blyskal. The biggest winners in ChatGPT answers are platforms like Reddit and Wikipedia. Their citations are up sharply. Reddit by almost 90%, Wikipedia by more than 60%. Together with TechRadar, these three sites now account for more than 1/5 of all ChatGPT citations. This isn't about ChatGPT-5's launch earlier this month. This shift started weeks before, suggesting a deliberate change in how ChatGPT picks its sources. The bias now seems to be toward answer-first content, pages that provide quick, authoritative explanations rather than websites built as part of a conversion funnel. And that's the bigger story. For years, marketers have invested heavily in designing web content to move users step by step through a conversion funnel from initial encounter to sign up. But if AI tools summarize the content without sending visitors to the site, that funnel breaks. Companies are now facing the challenge of re-engineering their marketing from the ground up at a time when the new rules of AI-driven search haven't even fully emerged. For now, it's uncharted territory. Marketers are navigating a landscape where the old playbook doesn't work and the new one hasn't been written yet. AWS CEO Matt Garman recently called the idea of replacing junior employees with AI one of the dumbest things I've ever heard. He argued that entry-level staff are the least expensive, the most eager to adopt AI tools, and the foundation of tomorrow's expertise. Without them, he asked, who will have the experience needed 10 years from now? But new data suggests that this dumbest idea is exactly what's happening. A Stanford study analyzed millions of payroll records, and it shows a 13% drop in employment among workers aged 22 to 25 in roles most exposed to AI, jobs like software development, customer service, and accounting, for instance. Older workers in those same fields, meanwhile, have held steady or even grown in numbers. There are exceptions. Healthcare, for example, where AI augments rather than replaces staff, but these are exceptions and they don't offset the losses in the first category. The trend is clear, and these aren't anecdotal findings. They're credible numbers from one of the top research institutions in the world and from actual salary data. And they did as much work as you could possibly do to eliminate any of the areas where there could be confusion. Is there a possibility they're wrong? Always. But this looks pretty solid and pretty bleak. And remember, enterprise adoption of AI, if you follow the MIT study that said that only 5% of companies had really achieved a financial benefit, we're still in the early stages. The pressures on entry-level roles could actually intensify from here. So while Garmin insists that it's foolish to shut out junior hires, the data shows that's exactly what's happening. It wouldn't be the first time that companies were doing the dumbest thing ever, cutting off the pipeline of young workers they'll desperately need in the future. The message is clear. If AI replaces the next generation instead of working alongside them, companies might save money now, but they might be bankrupting their future. For decades, the principle has been straightforward. If a company wants to operate in a foreign country, it follows that country's laws and tax rules. The only real complaint came if foreign firms were treated differently than local ones. But U.S. tech giants and the American government are pushing for a different deal. They want to expand into Europe while being exempt from European regulations and taxes. And when Europe pushes back, Washington is crying foul. This week, U.S. President Donald Trump threatened tariffs on countries he says are discriminating against American tech companies. This includes nations adopting digital services taxes or enforcing EU rules like the Digital Services Act. Mark Zuckerberg reportedly met with Trump to argue against those taxes just before the threat was issued. And that's where the problem lies. Earlier this summer, the EU and the US agreed on a fragile truce. Not everybody in the EU liked it. And whether it was a good deal for Europe or not is a matter of real debate there. But it finally gave businesses a little stability so they could start to plan ahead. But digital services weren't part of that deal. Now, with Europe determined to enforce its own digital sovereignty, this whole deal could be at risk. And with some of the discontent from the original deal bleeding through, leaders like French President Emmanuel Macron have made it clear he doesn't think Europe should back down. But if the U.S. retaliates with tariffs, we could be heading right back into trade chaos. For companies, it means the brief window of predictability they may have had will close once again, just as they were starting to look forward, if not with optimism, at least with confidence that the rules were clear. And in the end, we may find out what carries more weight, a nation's sovereignty or its economy. And as Europe grapples with how to regulate big tech, the U.S. is taking a very different path to a different model, one where a private company, Palantir, has become deeply embedded in the government itself. Palantir, a company that's really appeared in the past 3 years, founded by Peter Thiel, has two data platforms, Gotham and Foundry, which were originally built for intelligence work. Today, they power systems across the U.S. government, from the Pentagon and the IRS to immigration and customs enforcement. Recent contracts include military deals worth up to $10 billion and systems that centralize immigration data. For many agencies, Palantir has become the backbone of how data is managed and decisions are made. Critics say this blurs the line between state and private power. Palantir's tools pull in vast amounts of information from biometrics to financial and social media data while operating largely out of public scrutiny. Groups warn that the civil liberties groups warn that this scope of surveillance risks undermining democratic accountability. And there is some reason for concern. The government's experience with DOGE, the Department of Governmental Efficiency, has already shown how fragile trust can be. Whistleblowers have revealed some incredible lapses in protecting government records. We covered a story earlier this year about a whistleblower talking about data and how it was exposed to risk. And we did that again today in our sister podcast, Cybersecurity Today. These cases highlight that private contractors may not always put privacy and security first. And once again, brings us back to a sharp contrast to Europe, where digital government initiatives, while ambitious, have been rolled out with strict attention to data protection and privacy. If you want to see a model of this, take a look at what Estonia, a tiny little country, has done in the implementation of its digital government. The U.S. may want efficiency, but whether it can deliver that while protecting citizens' data is another question entirely. And as Palantir cements itself as an extension of government power, the real test may be whether the U.S. can balance that efficiency with the privacy safeguards that democratic governance requires. And that's our show. If you like what we're doing, please share the show with others. Give us a like or comment on your favorite podcast app or site. We're found everywhere: Apple, Spotify, YouTube, and more. We're back on Alexa and Google smart speakers. I think we've had some problems with Google, but we're working on them actively, so be patient with us. We'd love to hear from you. You can reach me at technewsday.ca or .com. Just go to the Contact Us page, and while you're there, if you want to support what we're doing, please go to the Donate tab and consider contributing the cost of a cup of coffee a month to support the show. And if you're watching this on YouTube, just leave a comment under the video, but your contributions would be welcome as well. Join us this weekend for Project Synapse. Marcel Gagné is going to be walking us through some of the latest cool things that have happened in AI. Just a thing for a long weekend. If we don't catch you then, we'll be back Tuesday morning with the tech news. I'm your host, Jim Love. Have a fantastic Friday and a wonderful weekend.